All right, I'm on a mission to talk more about my story, what happened to me, because it was 10 years ago. And I'm finally just able to dive into what is my why, my purpose, my mission, what's my passion the last few years. And I am working on two webinars and doing some podcasts on this topic. Life is not a race, it is a journey. And what we can do now to pay attention to what those red flags are so you don't just push past them, ignore them, stay calm and carry on. And then suddenly you'll be like me one day, as myself, try not to say the word like. It drives me nuts when people say like every other word. But I feel that we need to be more aware of what are red flags of when you are doing too much. When you're on the other side of that bell curve, here's the benefits: acute stress, chronic stress. Over here, we're not getting it. We're doing too much of everything. And too much of everything all the time can lead to what we say as FDN practitioners, metabolic chaos. So let me share my slide presentation to you and go into what I'm saying on my webinars and just get my face out of here. I moved to North San Diego from Seattle in June 2020. You might know what happened 2020. It was a time of our world that we put everything on hold. I try to erase what happened, but we actually, my husband and I, moved from Seattle to North San Diego to improve quality of life as we were able to work remote. Since then, I've been thriving in the outdoors, enjoying my weekend beach walks, doing everything outside that I can do year round. And I think it's really important to understand what is your why, what makes you thrive. And for me, it's being outside in fresh air. So over the years, I've learned a lot and I continue to learn. So it's been, gosh, 30 years. But I became a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and really wanted to help people thrive as they age because as a personal trainer, I only could do so much. So over the years, I've continued to learn and grow. And this year, I always have a new program I want to sign up for. And I have a long list of courses I want to take. But I became an FDN practitioner because I wanted to be able to run functional lab testing. We can learn a lot in a nutritional therapy assessment. And back in the day, we did a hands-on assessment, functional evaluation. I still want to see what are the hidden stressors that we don't know about unless we run lab testing. So as a health investigator, I help resolve metabolic chaos for people, but only because I had my own journey. So this is me many years ago. I owned my own studio called Fitness Forward Studio. I had group classes. We had a big, huge space. We had circuit training. I had personal training and personal training for 1 to 3 people every 30 minutes. And then we also did some yoga and Pilates and all that. I was doing all this while I was training for Ironmans. So I was running my own business, teaching a lot of clients, leading classes, working all hours of the day. What happened to me 2013 is what I shared in my book, Life is Not a Race, It's a Journey, with the mission, with the intention to help other people pay attention to those red flags. What did I learn over the years? More is not better. Too much of anything can be toxic, but also too little of anything can lead to deficiencies. We have different stress tolerance levels. So looking at genetics has always been interesting to me. And then what we call as FDN practitioners, Reed Davis claims or terms the word metabolic chaos when we have just this whole imbalance of our hormones and all this, our body systems, just a whole domino effect. And then I found just chronic anything you think of chronically, it just doesn't have a positive ending. And then also that chronic fatigue, when you're tired, exhausted, burning the candle at both ends, also relates to the function of our mitochondria and something I've been curious about, cell danger response and the microbiome and so much more internal. So what I ask you, Do you feel that you're doing all the right things, but you're just not getting the desired results? You're still struggling to get change. And this is why I think it's really important to work with a practitioner that understands that, because there is not a one size fits all approach. Why I wrote my book, why I do what I do today, is to help other people avoid chronic stress and take care of the whole you from the inside out. So today, hopefully you're curious, you're watching this video today because you're sensing you might be doing a little too much. You're kind of off, and you tell you're not working at 100% and you're just not yourself. Understanding why working the whole you approach is really essential. And we'll talk about all different topics, but specifically, we're going to talk about how chronic stress impacts you with the gut and immune health. So it's all one area. But how we start north in nutritional therapy, north south, working on the connection of the brain, the gut, the hormones, and the immune system. And what happens when we just don't manage our stress and we have too much of everything going on. We'll talk about the holistic method, talking about pillars of health, and then we'll share throughout the way, then some at the end, more of a summary of action steps, how to prevent and overcome stress, and then leave time for Q&A. So you can send me messages in the show notes. Now, chronic stress in the whole you, let's see what happens. Well, the brain, I've talked a lot about the vagus nerve on the solo videos here. Increased anxiety, you have depression, poor memory, your microbiome, your gut feels kind of off, your digestion's off, you kind of feel inflamed all the time. And hormones, because of this chronic stress of increasing cortisol, the downstream effects are going to increase our other or dysfunction or other hormones. So impact on your metabolism via thyroid, because when cortisol is elevated, thyroid is putting the brakes on. And we have this sleep issue because our melatonin is up and cortisol is down in opposition. So we want cortisol highest in the morning, melatonin lowest in the morning, and at nighttime, melatonin should be up and cortisol down. But if we have this whole dysregulated hormone system, our cortisol wake sleep cycle gets out of balance. And then when we have just chronic stress, we get lower immune system or self-defense, our immune system's out of whack, and we get more susceptible to illness. So long-term unmanaged stress can lead to even autoimmune issues, gut dysfunction, heart disease, burnout, all different things. And we want to look at how this happens. So my goal is to help you as a coach when I'm working with people. Ideally, I get clients that are coming to me early to prevent. That's when I'm happy. But mostly I get clients coming to me when they're over here on the compensatory phase. So we want the homeostasis. Our body has this amazing, brilliant, innate intelligence. So anything we do too much, chronic stress is that nonstop. But ideally, we must have some acute stress. That's good, healthy stress that we adapt from it and get stronger. Similar to lifting weights, building muscle, we break it down, rebuild, get stronger. If we do heat stress, cold stress, those are all different hormetic stressors. When we fast, intermittent fasting, when we eat to not eat, we're having acute stress. But if we do it too much, if I did cold thermogenesis hours a day, if I did heat stress for hours a day, if I lifted weights for 5 hours a day, it can be too much. So something that's healthy, and I always say, what does healthy mean? But if you do it too much, it can lead to imbalances. So this is the HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis progression, and how we want to catch you in the acute phase and not get to the compensatory phase where I was. All right, but specifically, we're talking about chronic stress on your gut. So looking at your hormones, as we went over, dysregulation and cortisol, impacting your metabolism and impacting your sleep. So right there, you're getting some red flags when you are having these high and low energy crashes that are not your normal. You're not recovering from your workout sessions. Perhaps your sleep is always pretty good, but now you're having wake up. You wake up and you can't fall back asleep. You have disruption in your sleep patterns. And then your metabolism. You're not doing anything different, as myself. I gained 30 pounds. I didn't change my workout at the time. I wasn't changing my nutrition. I was eating super clean, really low carb keto, focusing on my fat, my protein. I always say I probably was too low carb for my activity level, but just the whole imbalance. Now you can see this chart and how there's different infographics I'll share along the way that I found online, but stress triggers on the gut. So inflammation, glycemic dysregulation, there's all these markers of perceived stress, the circadian rhythm. So you can zoom in to see more. Whoop. Oh, I touched my screen. So if we go back to the immune system, when we have chronic stress, we can suppress immune function. So now we're getting colds more often. You might feel like you're getting infections. Maybe you're getting some autoimmune issues of Hashimoto's. Well, I just saw Dr. Sarah has a new book out, Autoimmune Issues. It could be 100 different autoimmune diseases. So it could be skin issues, all sorts of things. Having a lowered immune system or self-defense, and I shared my favorite analogy of all your military, Navy SEALs, all your guards are kind of taking a break, or they're injured, they're not working. We can have this suppression in our immune system and we're more prone to getting all these issues. But over time, this can lead to chronic inflammation. You might experience slower wound healing, and then really working on what the solution is. So how else can chronic stress? So going deeper, brain. So let's work north to south as we talk about nutritional therapy. The brain, you might feel that increased anxiety and depression. So I'm just adding in a few more slides here than I should, because I'm always curious of understanding why. Don't just tell me that happens, but I need to understand the why, how, when, mechanism of action. So you'll see a lot of repetition when I share presentations, because I feel that's a great way to learn for myself. So it might work for you too. So increasing anxiety and depression, because we have altered neurotransmitters, now serotonin and dopamine. But if we dive in deeper about the gut health, neurotransmitters are made in the gut, and then we can dive in deeper there. We've got that gut-brain connection. So if we have gut damage, we're going to have impact on our brain health because of leaky gut and the gut-brain connection with the vagus nerve. So there's like a seminar on each of these topics, so I'll just touch on them just so you understand some of these red flags. Then we have gut digestion microbiome disruption. We can have alteration in our microbiome, reducing our good beneficial bacteria and increasing our harmful microbes. This can lead to poor digestion. We're not absorbing our nutrients, and this can lead to bloating, acid reflux, nutrient deficiencies. And then we have increased inflammation that can contribute to irritable bowel syndrome, leaky gut, and food sensitivities, and much more. So over on the right, the infographic for here, I think is important to note that the leaky gut syndrome, the correlations with having intestinal inflammation, the gut wall lining, you'll get less absorption from B12, magnesium, iron, especially in your stomach. If you have stomach H. pylori, poor digestive enzymes, but also poor in your stomach organ. If you have low stomach acid, you're not absorbing your nutrients there. That's kind of the start of it. And then your immune response, and then GI response, food intolerances, leaky gut, autoimmune. So it's just nonstop. What I find is super essential to go over always is the role of our nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic. And we've done a bunch of podcasts on the vagus nerve. I did many interviews with Rhonda Collier of Sweet Beat talking about heart rate variability testing with their app, and then Amy Brannon of Nuvana, a vagal nerve stimulator device, how we can strengthen the vagus nerve by strengthening the parasympathetic system and helping that balance between our nervous system. So we have the rest digest versus fight or flight, and we need to be resilient and have that teeter-totter back and forth. So understanding the role of this vagus nerve, you can go into a deep dive on various interviews and solo podcasts, but the vagus nerve here is connected from this cranial nerve coming down into all these functions. So if we have these functions working at optimal level, we have to be in parasympathetic state. If we have poor vagal nerve, so I won't go into it, but this is a huge topic that I'm finding continues to relate to so many different chronic diseases. If we go backwards and look at the root causes, we're looking at foundations. So peeling the onion, going to the root of the onion, so to speak, you can see that the vagus nerve, we want to make sure we have our wiring system strengthened. We also want to see that bell curve, the Goldilocks effect. Not too much stress, not too little stress. So what is the optimal amount? Top of this bell curve, but if you start to get the other side of the bell curve, well, now we're getting some fatigue, a little more exhaustion, then we feel anxious, panic attacks, anger issues, and you have this burnout syndrome. So we have this optimal stress, not too much, not too little, just that right amount, the Goldilocks effect. So I love pictures because I think it's easier to understand what we're talking about when we talk about here's your gut wall lining, here's the mucosal layer. And I have another podcast to do a deep dive in on the glycalyx layer. And I don't know if that's what this is. I'm just learning about the barrier of our gut wall. So we've got this physical barrier, epithelial cells, and the other side of that is immune cells, immune system. And then we have inflamed gut over here on the right side, our microbial dysbiosis, less mucus, and we have more kind of gaps in between the cells and the cells themselves. So we've got these little villi. So you like to know any of these topics, I'm sure we have a deep dive into specific episodes on just that. So we want to understand chronic stress impact on your health. So just to dive into specifically this slide, understanding the impact of chronic stress on health and just how we need to have this balanced approach and that we're all unique individuals. So it's not this one size fits all. And we want to understand how stress impacts your body. You know, this slide doesn't show the whole picture, but how starts north, works way, skin issues, joints, tension, heart rate, your stomach, you might have poor digestion, the pancreas, the intestines, reproductive system, the immune system. So all of this can be impacted. And again, you know, gut health, digestion problems is our focus today in your immune system, but weight gain, unexplained weight gain is what happened, just injuries, mood swings, fatigue, just lack of fire, lack of love for life. In FDN, which is called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioners, we look at this balance. So we have this metabolic chaos gets to be what we see in a lot of people, as myself, was this imbalance of body systems and this domino effect of something from the root gets off balance, how it just creates chaos in the rest of the body system. So if we look at imbalance of, say, cortisol and our DHA hormones, we can have this downstream impact leading to all these different functions. So let's go into a little bit more. I just wanted to touch on those, but the importance of chronic stress and gut health and how inflammation, you know, all these different areas are important. So the microbiome, so we just touched on these, so increasing harmful bacteria, lower beneficial flora. We have weakened digestion, decrease in stomach acid, enzyme production, absorption, leaky gut allows toxins to get into the bloodstream. And then we have suppressed immune function, reduced ability to fight infections. So think healthy status starts north with the nervous system functioning, our gut-brain connection, and we start to see this abnormal gut function from, amazingly, just chronic stress. How does it work? So we're going to just break this down north to south. We start north in the brain. How does chronic stress impact our gut health starting north to south? So we see perceived stress. Chronic stress activates the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, we call HPA axis, triggers the release of cortisol and adrenaline. We have this fight or flight versus rest or digest. I showed that image. High stress shifts the body into sympathetic fight or flight, reducing parasympathetic activity, rest and digest. We're needing this for proper digestion. So going back to that slide I shared, Now we have reduced vagus nerve activation with chronic stress. And the vagus nerve, as I showed the image, decreases digestive function. Chronic stress weakens the vagal tone, leading to poor gut motility and enzyme secretion. Just to dive in a little deeper, the vagus nerve, chronic stress, vagal tone, impairing digestion, gut health. So important to look at that vagus nerve. How do you support your vagus nerve? Activating it with deep breathing. We'll do a whole video on that with my friend Scott Olson. He's just on his way to Iceland tomorrow to do a cold plunge and breath work 2-week trip on that. It's pretty crazy. So we're going to record after that. Cold exposure does increase vagal tone, but remember, too much cold exposures can be a chronic stressor. Gargling, humming, singing, it all stimulates your vagus nerve function. And then, of course, I said how you eat is really important, not just what you eat, when, where, and why, but being in a relaxed state, mindfully eating, sitting, focused on what you're doing, not being mindless, distracted eating. This will all enhance digestive efficiency. So starting north to south, what we need to do to make sure we're in the parasympathetic state. The vagus nerve, starting from the left side, that's when I use the Nirvana device, stimulates my vagus nerve. It goes into my left ear. So how else does it work? Chronic stress. So I found this slide: nausea, diarrhea, constipation. We'll talk about immune system. Next, we can do deep dive into decreased stomach acid sometime in indigestion, pain, bloating, heartburn, IBS, IBD, GERD, decreased nutrient absorption. These are all areas that can impact digestive system because of your way of living life as a race. So stomach acid, bloating, acid reflux. Low acid can actually cause acid reflux. So it's not that you have too much stomach acid. When you're having acid reflux, it's usually almost always too little. So indigestion, bacterial overgrowth, SIBO due to undigested food is sitting there too long and it starts to ferment. Now we can have delayed gastric emptying, gut dysbiosis. This can slow stomach emptying, leading to discomfort, nausea, contributing to inflammation and dysbiosis. And then leaky gut. And so you can see it just continues on: food sensitivities, immune dysfunction. So next we go from the brain to the next phase, brain gut connection. So in the mouth, stress disrupts digestion from the start. Digestion begins in the cephalic phase, where the sight, you smell, you think of food, that is already triggering digestive processes before you actually eat the food. So chronic stress keeps the body in fight or flight. Remembering this stimulates being in the rest and digest, stimulates saliva production. Remember the vagus nerve connected to the stomach, and it helps increase stomach acid enzyme release. So this can all slow digestion before the food even reaches the stomach. Now, in the mouth, if we have impaired chewing and saliva production, if we have decreased saliva enzymes, that chronic stress reduces amylase that's released in the mouth for carbohydrate digestion, and lipase can be in our mouth too, making food harder to break down. Poor chewing and fast eating, stress leads to rushed meals, meaning the food isn't properly breaking down before it reaches the next stage. As a nutritional therapy practitioner, we focus on the foundations first before we do anything else. So we always work on nutrient dense, properly prepared whole foods diet, but working on digestion, blood sugar, dietary fats, minerals, and hydration. That will help everything else, usually. So what can we do before you eat? We want to take some breaths in. I say take 3 long inhales and exhales, chewing your food, eating in the relaxed state, avoiding screens, sitting down, being present. And then you can support digestion. Something as apple cider vinegar is what I like. Digestive enzymes, Actually, Buoy is a new product I like to keep around. This one's for brain health, which I keep in my office. And but digestive enzymes, you can do drops in your water. But I think even starting to be mindful is a great step. Remember, slow digestion can impact your iron, your B12, magnesium, zinc, amino acids. So it's not just what you are eating if you're eating too many anti-nutrient food, but looking at, are you eating in a stress system? And if your stomach is not functioning well, how that can impact nutrient deficiencies and increase risk for parasites, pathogens, which I had, and immune system. Remember, your gut houses 70% of your immune cells. It's another good infographic here on the right of our microbiome, mucosal layer, short chain fatty acids, all the immune cells. Now, if we move south again from the brain, we went to the mouth, now we're to the stomach. This is what we're talking about, stomach acid secretion. So if we have low stomach acid, this impairs digestion, which we just went over, causing bloating, indigestion, nutrient absorption, slowed gastric emptying and gut dysbiosis, delays stomach emptying, can lead to SIBO, and then we see this downstream effect. So again, just stopping, pausing, and breathing before you eat. Moving south again is the small intestine. So impaired digestive enzymes, bile flow, and then leaky gut, intestinal permeability increases when we have chronic stress, increasing cortisol, weakens the tight junctions, lead to particles, toxins, pathogens entering the body. Then we move the next level is into the small intestine to the large intestine, and chronic stress can disrupt our gut microbiome, reducing beneficial bacteria, allowing overgrowth of harmful bacteria, yeast, parasites. I'm learning more and more how many people have conditions as SIBO and Candida overgrowth. Listen to my podcast I did with Dr. William Davis on that. Super interesting. And then altered motility. If you have constipation or you have diarrhea, so increased motility, you have more diarrhea, urgency, and then decreased, you have slow digestion, constipation, bloating. We also can get reduced production of short chain fatty acids. Another podcast I want to just do a deep dive in. Good gut bacteria produces butyrate and other short chain fatty acids, acetate, and acetone, which nourish the gut wall lining. Chronic stress can induce microbiome shifts, and this can reduce our short chain fatty acid levels, and this can lead to weakening our gut health and immune function. So action steps overall, we talked about breathing deeply, supporting stomach acid and enzymes as digest bitters, apple cider vinegar. Some people can benefit from a HCl betaine supplement. Focus on foods that feed the gut wall lining as collagen, bone broth, glutamine, zinc, probiotics. As Dr. William Davis, I make my own probiotic yogurt type of format to deliver my probiotics. Balance microbiome and regulate that stress. All right, so how else to support it? I already said that, but strengthen the gut. This one's probably delete this, but I will add in the dysbiosis functional lab testing, adaptogens, proper recovery, and support that vagus nerve. So, yeah, those are kind of the same. All right, so improving your gut health. Let's talk about immune health. We have fermented foods, fiber. I don't know about fiber. I'm thinking prebiotics are the fiber you want. Reduce inflammation, strengthen your defense. And then let's talk about your immune system. So going with the gut, my favorite analogy is understanding the immune system and all the moving parts and players. Think of it, the military defense team. And the gut wall lining, as Dr. Sarah, I've heard say about autoimmune disease, is leaky gut. And we have our boundary. So say you're in the boundary of your internal system, your small intestine, large intestine, stomach, all your organs. Then we have that outside of that wall, there's a wall there. So we have this boundary. We don't want to break down that wall or have any exposures there. So if we have our military defense system, Navy SEALs, the Marines, the Navy Command, they're all trained to detect and neutralize threats. If we have bacteria, viruses, toxins, anyone that's not supposed to be there, they're on high alert. When we have this chronic stress, it's the endless battle with no reinforcements. Your immune system, your immune force are overworked. They're under resourced and they're fatigued. They're worn out. So they're making slow response. They're not helping us. Now we have lymphocytes. These are our special forces in high alert. Your lymphocytes are the white blood cells. Think of them as your Navy SEALs, this trained SEALs team. They're ready to go, quick response. Now, if we have chronic stress, this lowers the number of our lymphocytes, leaving our defense system weak and vulnerable to invasion. So think infections and viruses. And then we have the gut. Our microbiome is the nerve center of the immune system. We're training new recruits, coordinating responses. Here we have chronic stress. We're going to disrupt the headquarters, sending these signals that are confusing, they're conflicting. And this leads the body to being more exposed. What's the result? We have slower reinforcements leading to more infections. We have friendly fire incidents. We have autoimmune disorders now, our body attacking itself. And we have a weakened barrier, increased inflammation, and gut permeability. So we call this leaky gut. So think our boundary, our borderline is broken. We need to get everyone working back in order. So if we have a weakened immune system, chronic stress suppresses immune system, reduced immune cell production, the gut immune system, the balanced gut microbiome is crucial for immune function, and chronic stress disrupts this balance, weakening immune response and tolerance, and increased health risks as immune dysfunction from chronic stress raises our susceptibility to infection, inflammation, autoimmune disorder. So, summarize: stress disrupts gut health, leaky gut inflammation, microbiome metabolism, and stress alerts alters communication. So put this in order of operation. Again, I said, I need to understand mechanism of action, order of operation. How does this work? So we start brain. We were talking about the hypothalamus, pituitary adrenal axis. Activates chronic stress, activates HPA axis. Cortisol is released. It's good in a short amount, but if we have chronic levels, that suppresses immune system, making us more susceptible to infections. High cortisol levels reduce white blood cell production. So we have less T cells, B cells, macrophages, our team, and we are weakened defense team. And then the autonomic nervous system gets out of balance. We get more stuck in sympathetic fight or flight, leading to imbalance of our parasympathetic rest and digest. And the vagus nerve is a part of that. And then we move south from the brain. We're talking about hormone disruptions and inflammation. We talked about chronic stress, cortisol resistance, that immune cells stopped responding properly to cortisol, leading to increased inflammation, out of control. Cortisol dysregulation impacts your insulin function, worsening blood sugar control. This can impact our immune defense. Then elevated adrenaline and norepinephrine triggers systemic inflammation, cytokines, leading to chronic low-grade inflammation. Then we have this gut barrier disruption. So remember, leaky gut, 70% of the immune system's in the gut. So the GALT, the gut-associated lymphoid system over here. Chronic stress weakens tight junctions in the gut, allowing toxins, undigested food, and pathogens leading into the bloodstream. Triggers chronic immune activation, increasing risk for autoimmune issues, allergies, and food sensitivities. So this kind of reminds me of, we always talk about Band-Aids, fixing something by you have this, take this for that, but this will keep happening if we don't work backwards to the root cause. Why do I have a broken immune system and why do I have a leak in my gut? But if you're not working on the why, all the supplements are not going to work until we fix our way of life. So the immune system, first line of defense, get dysbiosis, short-chain fatty acids, get less production. We can't fight infections as well. Lowered the first line of defense or secretary IgA levels might be higher. And we want to test and not guess your microbiome to find out what else is going on, ideally. And then we work down next level. We go systemic inflammation and immune dysfunction. How do we activate this autoimmune system? Hashimoto's, maybe you have some Hashimoto's is so common, but why? Why is this being activated? I always ask why. I need to understand, why is this happening? Is it related to chronic stress, trauma? Something happened when we were a child. I mean, it can go way back. And so we can't fix the problem unless we go dive deep into what else is going on. Increased risk for infections as Candida, H. pylori, parasites. I had it all from living life as a race. So it's a vicious cycle. We have chronic stress, cortisol dysregulation, gut dysbiosis, leaky gut, a weakened immune defense system. Once we get a weakened defense system, we have increased risk for infections, autoimmunity. Then we have ongoing inflammation, and we have further stress in the body, creating a cycle. So we get stuck, just constant chaos. So what can we do? Support the brain. I'm really finding we need to go up north. Let's work on that vagus nerve. Let's work on how we interpret stress and deal with stress. How would we manage it? So let's work on our lifestyle habits, how we start the day, how we end the day. I always say cannot out supplement poor lifestyle habits. So let's work on the foundations first before we start depending on taking ashwagandha to fix all the problems. Maybe doing a vagus nerve stimulator as Nirvana one I was using. You can combine it with deep breathing, sauna, cold exposure meditation. You can stack habits together is what I like to do. And then strengthening the gut, improving your foods that you're eating that include probiotic rich foods, supporting your gut wall lining nutrients as bone broth, collagen, eating organ meat. I don't do that. Hyaluronic acid, the collagen, all that good stuff's in there. But looking at what you could do nutritional therapy wise, and then lifestyle, nature walks, breath work, and then testing. Let's figure out if you do have these infections. So I call it the holistic method, how chronic stress impacts the whole you. And really working on getting nutrition, getting our movement, our sleep, order of operation depends on you. And noting, am I in sympathetic dominance, or am I back and forth? I don't want to be dominant and parasympathetic. I want to be resilient and shift back and forth. So listen to your body signals, recognize, make adjustments, course correct, support the foundations, honor and rest your body. Work on the nervous system, healing the gut, build immune system, optimize and thrive. So picking one thing to work on, morning routine, being consistent, figure out your nutrition, but think of one thing to improve. Morning habit, your exercise, your mindfulness practice, one thing at a time, base hits to create a home run. So taking ownership of your health, pick 1 to 2 things to work on this week, track your progress. You don't have to be a superhero. If you want more, head to my website and schedule a call and we can see what else you can do to be your best self. So let me know if you have questions. I look forward to talking to you soon and do a 20-minute free recovery discovery call. Talk soon. I'm on a mission to help you be fit and healthy from the inside out at a cellular level so you can thrive as you age. Thank you.